Boom. Good evening, good morning, good night to all of you out there. The Council of Elders is in session. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's episode 3 of this amazing show we've got going for you. If you're listening on Spotify, we thank you so much for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure to be with all of you today. We've got Nick, obviously co-founder of CryptoRares. How you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for putting this on number 3.
Number 3, dude. I know.
Next year we'll be on 30. We'll be seasoned warriors.
Oh man, yeah, that'll be wild. 30. I can't even think of that right now. But man, that's gonna be exciting, dude. I'm so excited, to be here. We've got a great panel of community members stepping up to the plate for this episode. But before we get to them, just quick question or quick thoughts from you. In terms of the current status of CryptoRares, how are you feeling right now? Is everything rosy, or you kind of struggling, or like how are you?
I'm feeling great. I mean, of course, when like the overall markets and prices and stuff like that aren't doing well, it definitely puts a little stress and pressure, and you don't exactly, feel great about that. Mm-hmm. But, I feel really good about the team and where our head's at, and how the team is like maturing, and we're getting better at, solving problems. We've definitely been stuck in the weeds a little bit on Unity, but finally seems like we've, had some breakthrough on that, and are getting some progress, which is huge.
Yeah.
I don't think I fully appreciated the amount of hard work that it takes to build up the code base on like a proper engine. It's way quicker for us to do the things that we want to do in Phaser, but still feel really confident that being on a proper game engine is gonna pay off long term. But I think we're in a good spot. We just have to keep building and executing, and even if things get pushed a little bit back, we gotta make sure we're moving in other departments at the same time.
Yeah, no, totally feel that. And I feel like the community, they're hitting that Unity win button every single day. But when that does come out, guys, I mean, we've all seen some leaks and whatnot, and I know you guys are testing on the behind the scenes. Hopefully, I get to test soon. Just sneaking that one in there.
Most definitely.
But no, man, I can't wait. And patience is just a virtue in my book, in my industry. Patience is a virtue. You can't rush anything, because if you rush it, down the road, what you rushed, may break. And then you're fixing, and it doesn't do the community justice. So I, for one, am happy that you guys are taking the time and working through what you need to work through now, so you don't have to work through that later. So
yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got a great panel, a lot of amazing questions that are about to be dropped your way. Let's head over to them and see what they got.
Let's get in there.
Let's go.
And I leave Discord, right? I'm really good with technology.
Mic is muted. There we go. Mic's unmuted. Now you guys can hear me. Let me go through that again. We got HelV, we got Bilbol in the middle, we've got Kennabear and DanK in the right corner. Thank you all for hopping in here. Appreciate you. We've got the Bilbol docs going on here, guys. Can we get some hypes in chat? Some hashtag ban Bilbo. You can't hear me. You guys can't. You guys can hear me, right?
I can hear you, but chat's saying they can't.
Hold on a second.
Oh yeah, my name doesn't show up on stream.
No, wait.
Yeah, I'm both HelV Gaming and Bilbo, apparently.
Hold on.
You got that going on?
Yeah, I'll fix that. Don't worry. We got this.
I got drugged.
Chat, can you guys hear us? We can hear fine. Okay, they're saying they can hear fine. Okay. Someone was lying to you.
Is actually Bilbol.
I'm trolling.
He's both.
Oh, hey Nick, switch your microphone over.
Oh, okay.
There we go. All right, we should be going good. It's because Bilbo's on this show, guys. We're running into these issues. That's why.
Sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's always what it is.
My bad.
He's a living, breathing computer virus.
Living, breathing computer virus. No, we love you, Bilbo. We love you.
Thank you.
Ban Bilbo. Let Raider teach $4 or touch $4 immediately. Oh my gosh, Keenan, it's hilarious. Nick, can you talk real quick? Make sure we can hear you.
Mic check, mic check.
There we go. Sounding good. All right, I'm gonna drop the music out because that's still playing in the background, and then we'll get into this. Damn hobbits! Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. HelV Gaming, Bilbo, Kennabear, DanK. Let's hop into the questions. Well, we're gonna go left to right here. I have on my screen HelV Gaming. What you got for Nick today?
All right, so first thing I wanted to talk about is I just kind of wanted to, because it's kind of gone back and forth over the course of time with the community and the devs. I wanted to ask about how the team feels now about having, and I'm sure this will be very easy, very low lift once we get into Unity, just adding in drop tables and like a little I button, something you can click on the dungeon that just gives you all the drops that are in it, what stats the item has on it, and what the drop rates are. And something like Bingo Bango mentioned it in chat today too. And it's just something that'd be really nice, especially like if you're new, it's really hard. And obviously you were talking today too about new player interface and making that more accessible. It's just really nice to know like what stats are on an item before you start doing the dungeon and where it drops and kind of an idea, even if it's not exact, what the drop rates might be like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think there's like, two parts to that. One is just like improving the like the player UI and the information that you have in there, which I think is super important. And we've been, like lacking in that. And that's why so many people like have been using Crypto Raiders Companion just to get some sort of insight on some of this information. And I agree with you. It's super valuable. And that's going to be a big priority with Unity is basically getting it launched and then, improving those UI experiences. And then the second part is like more transparency with the drops. And I'm 100% on board with you, especially now. I think originally when we were doing it, because it's not that hard to add, right? Like technically, like we have all of the numbers, like we have the assets, like we can just make a tooltip that has all this. We kind of like intentionally left it out at first to like have like the mystery of finding things and like have the community like discover things for the first time. But the more that we've gone along, I feel like that's probably like more like negative than positive, you know what I mean? And it probably just makes a lot of sense for people to know, like as you said, like, oh, okay, I want to run this dungeon because like this strength weapon is sick and like I need it for one of my characters, so I'm going to run that instead of it being like mystery and finding out along the way. And if we do want to have like Easter egg drops, we can just like not include those on the loot table, but like still have like the other stuff on there as well. So I'm completely with you on that. And that's part of the reason today when I was like asking the questions, because we are talking about this a lot, like on the game design side, especially when like looking at the game and making sure that it has enough depth for advanced players, but also being like casual enough that like new players can like pick it up and understand it. And like to your point, like if a person doesn't even know what they're going to get in a dungeon, then how do they know if they need to run it or not, other than straight leveling up? And earlier in the chat, we also like touched on like improving the tooltips to make it like easier to understand like what gear is going to do to your character. Like if you get a new piece of gear, if you can just very quickly see like, oh, okay, this is going to boost my HP by 200 and I need HP. Oh, but like the sacrifice is my damage is going to go down by like 5 or 10, when like casual players are like coming in and picking up the game are going to be like, important. So I think that, that's it. That's an easy and want to do. And thanks for the softball first question. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Gotta unmute. Bilbo, we'll move on to you. Go ahead.
My first the team. So you have one of the in the crypto world right now. So my question is like when you if to create Crypto Raider, and what were some characteristics for the members that ended up joining your team?
Yeah, so like when we started out, I
first-
mean, like a fun, like when we like first launched it, we wanted success, but I don't think we would have been like, oh, okay, we're going to be like at this size and have funding and have this many players. We kind of just, you know, a lot of people state of the industry like where it is now, but like when we first came up with this idea, there was like 2 games you could play. It was Axie Infinity and like Zed Run, and we were like, man, like we would love to be able to like, you know, actually play like a game that reminds us of World of Warcraft or like RuneScape, and that was like the vision. But like the characteristics of like who we brought on to like the team, it's actually crazy the amount of people that have joined the team that like started in the community in one way, like shape or form. Like literally the first engineer we ever hired, Ryan, he joined the team just because he found the game and he was like playing it for a while. And when we put up a job application, he was like immediately applying for it, and he did like fantastic work, and then moved on to another job, but it was actually very instrumental in us getting funding and like hiring people down the road. He like recommended 2 of like the hires that we've made and in the past, and actually he recommended both of the senior game designers that we hired in the past month. So I think it's just part of it is just like having such a strong community, but also being like in the right place, right time with like an exciting new thing where like people just like want to, you know, be involved in this. So it's actually been very easy for us to like hire and get great talent on the team. And we're actually looking to do some more hiring. So we're going to be looking to bring in a senior Unity dev on our team, because it's been great working with the studio, but like we feel like we need to really build up that internal expertise, and like having an expert on our team is not only going to help our communication with the studio and our progression speed with the studio, but like also with like our core dev team getting more experience with Unity, because we've built up a lot of experience on HTML5 with like Phaser.js, and now we have to do this like big transition into an entirely new code base. So like, yeah, we've been just like, I guess like lucky to get so many like awesome people on the team that have just like kind of come through organically, and I'm sure that will like continue to be the case to a certain extent. I think eventually we'll probably application on Indeed.com for some role here or there. But it's like cool, like even when you think about like the music, like all of the music came from people that came through the community. Like we didn't put up like a job listing or like a post on a forum for people to make us like music. And I think that's like actually part of the reason why like our music is like really good, because it's like players or people that have like participated in the community that are like making some of the music, so it has that like touch that you can't just like get from someone on Fiverr or Upwork or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Love that question, Bilbol. It's I don't think we talk enough about the team, not just the founders, but the team behind all the coding and the art and the music. Like they're honestly killing it, and the fact, you know, a quarter of them are community hires is just awesome. This is a testament to what you guys are building in Web3, honestly.
Yeah, and a lot of these people have made like, you know, big sacrifices coming from like cush jobs with like, you know, guaranteed upside, for the lack of a better word, like working with like a big tech company or like working for like, you know, a bank or like something like that, and they're taking like a risk. So it's like awesome that people are like willing to make that like jump and that leap, because they
paid off in the end. So I think it was the right decision for them.
All right, DanK, Kennabear, what you guys got?
So I was just wondering when we could expect like disenchanting possibly, and like if it's ever going to be possible to get like say an old item like the bees level, like competing with like current tier epics, maybe not current tier legendaries, because those should probably always have like a little bit of an advantage, but like even a Lightbringer, like in like a couple months when 4 or 5, like, you know, still a strength weapon like that.
Yeah, great question. I just want to clarify. But would that, in your mind, entail them like rerunning the old dungeon to get
So I mean, that was another idea I was thinking that could be a really cool thing. Like there's heroic, but like maybe we have like a new version of the dungeon that has current tier loot, and you pay the same amount of keys that you would pay to go in the new dungeon, or even more if like it's someone legendary item that like you can only get from like one specific dungeon. But like stuff like that would be like really cool, and I think like give people a reason to grind old gear and like shake up the meta just a lot more than maybe it currently is.
Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. I do like that idea. We have to like, out, but I do love that, and it also can sort of help with some meta balancing. Dungeon, there's only a certain amount of things you can put on the loot table. Therefore, like the things you put on the loot table, the meta in a strong way. If people could like go back to the witches and like grind them at like max difficulty, like it was a new dungeon, but like get that gear, but it's improved eye level, is very doable. And that's part of like the awesome thing about the eye level system that like Centurion made, is that like those kind of things, like on the back end, are like technically not that hard to do, because it's just a matter of like launching a new dungeon, just adjusting the eye, or like a new variation of the dungeon, adjusting the eye levels on the items, and then like the difficulty of the boss. So I think that that's very doable, and I do like that idea. It also like allows certain cool things to be very relevant. One of the things like Ken is kind of bummed out about, because like I've been pushing like new dungeon, let's get new gear, let's add new things. And he's like, there's only so many great things I can make, Nick. Like there's only so many I can make, and that's actually part of the reason why we're looking at improving the pixel size of the characters, so that
stop covering their face.
More stuff to work with, and like more room to do that stuff. And then on the disenchanting side, very much so, like disenchanting, crafting, like that's all 100% on the roadmap. Part of the problem, part of the reason why there may be like the appearance that like features have like stalled, is that I've been like trying to push the roadmap at the speed that we were able to get these things out on Phaser, because it's a way lighter code base. And now Unity's Unity's harder to build up the code base, but once we get it there, like adding new features should be good. But part of the problem also is, and I used this analogy before, like I was trying to get Unity out while we were adding new features on Phaser at like the same speed.
Yeah,
trying to get them just to have this like relay race handoff. And and like the devs have the dev team is kind of, especially over like the last month, like it sat me down and basically said, every new thing that we add to Phaser, then you're like pushing Unity back by another
you're like pulling your guys in like opposite directions there.
And then they're like building something in one code base, and now it's going to have to get ported over to Unity. And so they kind of like just like put, for lack of a better word, and was like, okay, we can launch new dungeons, we can launch new gear, we can do all of that stuff, because it's not like crazy high lift. But like if we want to get Unity out, we have to like all resources into getting Unity out, and then start building the new features there. So like all of that is still coming. One of the new senior game designers is actually working on the disenchanting and crafting tables to make is good, and it makes sense, and it like scales up properly. So we're like, if like Unity was like live, you know what I mean, like the disenchanting crafting would be like in terms of the game design. Oh, it's just a matter of getting Unity live. And then the first thing I really want to get into Unity is the true PvP, because then that lets us do PvP matchmaking. And the exciting thing about PvP is it's something that we don't have to gate. So like we do have to gate the PvE side of things, so that like people can't just run like a bot 24/7 and just ruin the economy potentially. But we don't have to gate PvP, because we can just make like keys you get there just like based off of like your MMR. So it's going to be like a game mode that like people can really play like 24/7. Like you can kind of do it with duels, but it's not that fun when you're not actually playing against someone and you have to find someone to match up against. So like I really want to get the matchmaking system in place also, so then we can run the big tournament like that. It has to be live PvP, you know what I mean? Like it can't be faked. It would just not be fun, and we wouldn't attract like the excitement from people outside of crypto raiders that we're like trying to accomplish with that. So like that'll probably be like and then we can start like knocking out the other pieces on the roadmap. But we can get all inventory. And
Right.
one of the problems with Unity is that they like made the like inventory slots like, and we're like, no, there's like people with like thousands of items. So like,
I have
why-
100. I
yeah,
have 100 runes on one character.
One character.
exactly. And so like some of yeah, we've been having to fix some things like that.
Yeah. I can't even sell them, so it's not like they're going anywhere.
Oh, because they're not maxed out.
Yeah.
There's some tickets on any runes.
Oh, runes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're using it. Yeah, no, you
I mean, you can't even delete them if you want.
No.
can't even just dispose of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got these 50 thorns runes. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but I got them.
We were actually
They
thinking
look pretty. They
They
look
look pretty, right? We were thinking it would be cool if like runes you could eventually maybe like socket them into certain items to either like, you know, enhance the item itself or like
What if
create
it gives it like magic damage, like
Exactly.
put in fire damage, or like yeah.
You could like socket in and flame rune into like a
Right.
helmet that like buffs actually like
Defense against fire. Like if you do that, then if someone uses inflame, it doesn't hit you as for much because you have like flame like defense. Like yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. And then it would, because right, like we when we way back in the day first put in rune before abilities,
Right.
but we can like extend their like use case and like integrate it a little bit more.
Well, that's great.
I have a question that kind of piggybacks off of, in a sense.
Go ahead.
Um,
Go ahead, Kenna.
So, basically, because like you're saying, for dungeons, you can only have so many items, on the loot table, because otherwise it would just be ridiculous. You'd never be able to get anything. There'd be like impossible drop rates. So, like, what do we have any info on like the future of Endless Dungeon? Like, because it can't just be one thing. Obviously, if we plan on coming on with more accessories, we wouldn't be able to just pile them all into one endless dungeon. So I don't. Me and Daniel were even talking about it today. I don't know like what your guys is like, but when we get further on, when there's going to be like classes and things, what if there's multiple endless dungeons, but they're like class specific? So like one would be like a strength endless dungeon, one would be like an intelligence endless dungeon, and like or an agility, like your main stats, and you're gonna get gear specified for like what's gonna benefit like your raider the most whenever you're going into like more so class systems. So like you could release more gear, I feel like, or more like more different types of accessories into multiple different endless dungeons than just having one. Because at a certain point, you know, you're gonna have to like either drop stuff and get rid of it, or like, yeah, I don't know. But I feel like that wouldn't break it too much because we have multiple. We already have its own tab, you know. Endless is its own tab, so.
Exactly, and it's great that you brought that up because I mean we've also been like discussing that with like even like story mode dungeons is like I mean one of the ideas with the team was that like we would have a dungeon like for the like class abilities where you would like go in and kind of choose your class and then like fight a different boss that like only had loot table relevant to your class. But just in general, not even that, like just in general with like story mode dungeons, like having like class specific stuff that can like drop, but like it only drops if you're that class, so you're not you're getting less gear that's irrelevant. And we could also do that, like you said, on the endless dungeon, like the plan for like the upgraded like version of endless dungeon. And the idea is to make it like more like Slay the Spire. And so like how it would work is you would like go in and you would fight a mob, and then after that you would like go into a room and there would be like maybe a left or like a right option.
Okay.
And like there you don't know what's like behind the door essentially, but like there could be like a merchant that you can like buy with your endless dungeon points that you've earned to like
Okay. Yeah.
potion that like only works in endless dungeon, so you can like push farther. Slay the Spire has like a healing pool. You can have certain like NPCs that appear randomly, but they have like a chance of dropping really good gear. We've even putting in like crafting tables into Endless Dungeon.
Okay.
To, like craft certain things, you have to like grind the Endless Dungeon and try to find the crafting table, and then you can like craft like 1 or 2 things. But that could be a way to like, I don't know crafting, but maybe if you want to like craft like a legendary weapon, it's like have to like, you know, find the right Endless Dungeon room to do it. Definitely that's on like the pipeline, is like improving Endless Dungeon. But I do really like that idea, because you're right, like in order to make Endless Dungeon more valuable to run, we're going to need to have more like table than just rings and bracelets, which is like what we have right now.
Right.
And yeah, and so I love that idea. So we can like break it up by classes. We could make different styles of Endless Dungeons, like you said. So maybe there's like a specific type of Endless Dungeon where like only certain things drop. By the way, Langley, did you get this? Your call-ins in 10 minutes, Papa?
I did, and that is probably why we're lagging, because I think I called on the wrong Google.
Oh my God.
That is why.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm like, why is this lagging so bad? And that makes sense. We're being
We're being on our free account.
yeah. Total noob move right here, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back. Let's restart the call real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Forgive mission. Cue the music.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
That happens.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to be Bilbol. Let's just reversal come back. Oh, okay.
Cool.
And we're back. Okay, so we've changed things up, everyone. Bilbo is now Nick, and Nick is now Bilbo. All right. So, and HelV is now Dan and Kennabear. So we have morphed a little bit. All right. We're just gonna make it work.
Nick, where's Unity at?
Unity is coming very soon. We are working on it right now, and we had difficulties with a lot of bots, but now we are in a better state.
Oh man, he's just like Nick.
Ban Nick now.
Ban Nick, everybody.
All the time.
Oh, okay. All right. So I don't know where we were. So let's just pick back up with HelV. Your question was next.
Oh, Van
Right.
Nick is now.
Yep, there you go, Van Nick, for sure. All right, so I just wanted to give you a bit of a opportunity. I know you like to do this because you're always thinking about the game, always thinking about what's going on, what's coming up, and what you can do. So I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity about dungeons and where they're headed, because like when Croc first came out, Guardian's Lair first came out, I thought we were going a completely different direction than kind of where dungeons have gone since then. I kind of thought it was going to turn into like this roguelike, go through the dungeon, make decisions on which path to take. Maybe you run into like roaming squads of different fodder mobs, and that makes the dungeon. I thought we were headed towards, 15-minute dungeon runs, 20-minute dungeon runs, where it's like every single dungeon is a huge adventure. And obviously you have complications with that, with, we've kind of built up a system here where people have 50 characters, 100 characters they're trying to run, and you kind of run into some complications and might have to find some ways to work around this. But I kind of wanted to get an idea of what you think dungeons are going to look like in the future. What, in your dream world, what would they look like, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, one of the things that we have to be mindful and like worry about is that like if the dungeons just keep acting in the same capacity, or they're just the exact same, they're gonna get stale, right? Like that's just gonna happen if they're just like, oh, you walk for a little bit, you fight the same boss, you fight a boss. You walk for a little bit, you fight a boss. I think like part of like endless dungeon eventually is supposed to be something that I think is, you play once per day, but it could take like, 30 minutes or an hour, like I mentioned, like with the merchant, and you could buy a potion to restore your health and like keep progressing deeper. But we want to do that stuff on the story mode dungeons as well, especially if we can get to a place where it's like multiplayer PvE, right? And like those instances taking much longer and having like a lot more complexity. Like as you mentioned, there is the thing like if someone has 50 raiders, they're not going to want to run like a single dungeon that takes 30 minutes. But at some point in time in the future, we're going to have to be able to get past that and be like, hey, like we need to build experiences that are fun if you just have one raider. And like so there's definitely like a balance between both of them. You've seen us like try to do little things with like decision making or variability, like with the dungeon where there was 4 possible bosses that could come out, like based on the actions that you took. I think the real answer is that like since our dev resources have been like stretched so thin, we're trying to do like cool things without taking up so much time. And also the code, like the code mini engine, if you want to call it that, like powers dungeons, needs to be upgraded so that we can do more and more cool things. But I'm completely with you. Like a year from now, I would love for dungeons to like feel more like World of Warcraft experiences where they take longer and there's more things that you're fighting and there's more things that you're able to like do, and then that there's also like more variability, where like if this certain spot in the dungeon where if you flip a lever and then you go to this like other boss, by flipping the lever you have a percentage chance of the boss turning into a mega boss that's hard to fight, but like there's like unique loot to it. There's all sorts of things that we can do. I can guarantee you that like a year from now, dungeons aren't going to be like they are today, where you're just watching your character walk up to an enemy and then you're just fighting them, which is going to get it already feels a little bit repetitive, even though that it's fun to see the new art and get the new gear. We have to like step it up and get much more cool things happening there. I definitely think that we can do it without, if the experiences are a lot like, oh, you need 5 people to raid this and it takes 30 minutes, you know what I mean? But you're like raiding with 5 people and there's a lot of strategy. Like when you have more people, that like naturally adds more variability and also like more complex things that you can do with the bosses. You know what I mean? Like if there's 5 people fighting and you all have to have fire resistant gear because you're going up against a dragon, and there's like a certain way that you have to move around so that or actions that you have to take to like take down the dragon. I think that like multiplayer experiences are where we can really take the depth a lot farther, and like the complexity a lot farther, without like making it so that like someone that just wants to casually play for like an hour every night with their like one character, they're like super afraid of going into any of the dungeons because they're like so complex. Like there's just like anything, there's like a balance between the two. But definitely like I want that same thing. Like I want those like really rich experiences in a dungeon. And also if we make dungeons take longer and be a little bit more complex, they can also potentially last longer, if that makes sense, of like being entertaining for like a longer period of time than like a dungeon is now. Because like when there is more decisions to make and more experiences and like things to do, it's more fun for like a longer period of time. So like we could, and one of the things we've been talking about and like with like the axe and stuff like that is that like, because one of the things we want to avoid is having like eye levels just be like this straight linear thing up, because it causes all sorts of issues with like meta balancing and power creep and all of these different things. And if we could get more to like an act, like a true act kind of scenario where there's like maybe a couple of dungeons that are like easy, but then like the end dungeon is like really hard and takes a lot of time, is complex, and maybe takes multiple characters to like push through. But then in that kind of system, we can like release a lot of content, have a really rich like end game content, and then have the game be able to sit at that level for like a month or two without the game getting stale, and allowing like the meta to like balance out and like the power creep to like balance out and like sit level for like a period of time. um Whereas like right now, like I feel kind of like an urgency of like I don't know if urgency is the right word, but like getting new content out so that it isn't stale and there's new things to do. You can kind of solve that by just having richer content like you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think
Also, we're trying to get boots out for the next dungeon, so that would be fun.
Wait,
get
so-
some new like we're gonna try to get boots out for the next dungeon too.
Ooh.
Just like
Ooh,
common
that's
and
exciting.
yeah, just like common and uncommon to start with this, and then there's
Yeah.
another dungeon at the end of the act that maybe we'll have like some rare boots or something like that. But just trying to do everything that I can to like add new stuff to the game without adding more hair loss to the dev team.
Yeah. I think, people forget, the route you guys are going for, or like the final goal, right? Like people have 100, 200, however many raiders, right? But when we get to the point where, you get these 30-minute raids like you do in WoW, where you go in an instance, right? And it's a huge, it's a 30-minute, 20-minute run or whatever. But, that takes time. You're not going to be able to do that with 100 raiders, right? So I think people have to start, kind of reworking their thought process of how am I going to run my raiders? I mean, having guilds and all that, obviously, fleshed out will help. But I think once we get to that, it's gonna be really exciting. I can't wait.
Also, I just want to like say that like if you're out there and you have 50 raiders, like don't be like freaking out right now. This is not something like next week be like impossible.
One way is like you can get around that problem too, where you can do things like you have 7 free runs or whatever right now per week, where you can just set it up like 7x on a single run, where you get 7 rolls, but you lose out on the possibility of you don't there's all these advantages you lose out on, but in exchange you get 7 times the experience if you win and 7 of the rolls on the loot table. But it would be way more optimal to just run them one at a time. Stuff you can do to kind of band-aid the issue of people having a lot of characters too, if you make the dungeons way more complex.
May have to get HelV on some game design consulting, because a genius idea actually. That could definitely like fix that kind of thing, or at least make like the transition smoother. Like once again, when we start introducing these kinds of things, but that's actually like a really cool idea, where there is a trade-off, right? Where it's not like you lose a little bit of efficiency. Maybe you get 10% less XP, or as you said, you miss out on a little bit of upside. Get all of your runs in on like a longer dungeon without being like, oh my god, this is gonna be a full-time job if I try to pull it.
The downside of if you're putting all 7 runs into a single one, if you lose it, you just lost 7 in a row. That's less than ideal if your character's borderline, So you have a risk-reward trade-off there too.
Some key.
I bet you a lot of people would do that though. I know HelV would do that.
I would as well.
Especially if you have like mid-range characters, right? That you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-range characters, right, that you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-range characters, right, that you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-range characters, right, that you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-range characters, right, that you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-range characters, right, that you're just trying to like you may not do it on your top 2-3 raiders, where you're like, no, I want to like have full control. 'Cause, like, if you have like mid-ran I'm at a 50% win rate on this dungeon, so I don't really want to flip a coin on all my runs. But then, like, if you're just trying to progress, your other 10 mid-level, raiders, then you can kind of just speed up the process on those. That's a great idea.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, Bilbo.
Put that down.
Yeah, I actually
Yep.
wrote it down too.
Yeah,
Bilbo,
cool.
what you got, buddy?
Yeah, my second question is actually about tokens. I'm not sure if that's really your uh, but as the question is actually just like for the recruitment now we are going to replace some of the Aurum with Raider, which will give Raider some use cases, and it feels like we are taking away from Aurum now by doing that. And if we keep like doing the same process over and over again, we will just end up in the cycles to break out of the cycle. Of course, it's important to give Raider token and Aurum use cases, but what regarding that?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. And like attaching Raider to it isn't something that's like 100% like set in stone. We're doing this like no questions asked. I think regardless, like the situation, especially with Laz rewards, is I saw a scenario where our character supply could get way out of control to a point that it would be very hard for us to come back from. And I think that is one of the few areas where you can actually kill your game. And for me, it was like, a that I felt like we had to do regardless, and then that would
Yeah.
give us an opportunity to take a look at the model itself. Because like right now we have like 68,000 raiders, and a lot of people are where like if we get to 15,000 unique players or 20,000, then we're like in a really good ratio spot, and we can recruitment. But like when I was looking at the scenario, I'm like, I would much rather not have recruitment, and we can get some other like sinks in the place and like use cases for Orem, um, or even Orem, which it did, but I think it was mostly even if Orem out of a problem, then like if we wake up one day and we have 200,000 raiders and we have like, then we could be in a situation that is like, really hard to get out of. So to go back, like the Raider isn't something that has to be set in stone, but basically one thing we were looking at is like that came to this idea was that like if we can make Raider something that like permanently add something new to the economy, that like by adding the Raider costs to it, you can kind of prevent just like an Orem Laz flywheel that will like add permanent things to the economy, especially things that can earn Orem as well. Like, like an alchemy table, you can just charge, if someone wants to buy that, you could just like charge Orem for it. Cause yeah, it's like but it's not letting you like get another raider that then can go level up and then get more Orem, and then get another raider that can go up, level up and get more Orem. It may have not been the best band-aid. Could just put recruit and make it all in Orem. But like what I like noticed and didn't fully appreciate when was that if you make recruitment cheaper over time, it's actually like a drag on the floor price. Like it's just mathematically a drag on the floor price, drag everything down with it. Like if I think if I could go back in time, I would have said, let's let we could leave recruitment open, but maybe like the Orem price has to stay flat, or maybe it even goes up. Would have protected the price of the floor a lot better while still allowing new people to come into the game. But also there was this thing that we were as a team were like, we want to make the game an affordable entry. We didn't want $1,000 to like start playing. But it is like a delicate like balance between the two, because unintentionally when you drag down the floor price to make the cost of the game cheaper for existing customers to help your new customers,
Yeah.
and that was never our intention. Like we haven't done this before. We haven't had like 10 like recruitment style games. Like we're learning some of this stuff on the fly, but yeah, like when I like look at like the I don't think we did anything like bad, but I saw like a potential bad problem like forming that we had to like nip into the bud. So maybe when we reopen recruitment, it's just like an Orem cost, but it's a little bit higher because even if eventually, because one of the other things is potentially the way to get mass crypto raider adoption is like a free to play game where they can't earn but they can play and they interact with the crypto players that are earning because of what they can do that like the free to players can't. Like for example, like free to play players can't do anything with the farming, right? So like the free to play players would have to buy potions and craftable gear from the pay to play players, and that's like a synergy that you could see working out. If that was the model, then you really don't need the pay to play character cost to go all the way down to like 20 or 30 to make it an affordable entry. They could actually be at $50 and it could still work out because if someone doesn't want to pay that, they could do the free to play game where they can't earn, maybe they can't trade, but they can play and like fall in love with the game. And maybe there are mechanisms that they could work towards to then be able to like buy an actual pay to play character. But that's all. Regardless, like the goal to pause recruitment was like, hey, GameFi is kind of going in a bear market. Like we don't want to create this inflationary supply flywheel that we can't get ourselves out of. So I was like, it's best for us to like pause it, work on getting some other syncs in the game, and then when we relaunch it, try to relaunch it with a model that existing player base and doesn't harm them, which once again was an unintentional outcome, but may have happened because of our model.
I'm not sure if you checked my PowerPoint, but I did touch on those points. So I think like as a solution,
We should never banned you.
as a solution, you could maybe add aging to the raiders, where say age a certain point you have to sacrifice one of the characters, for example, to make them young again, for example, like just as a burning mechanic if you feel like the supply is out of hand right now. But I don't believe that's a problem long term. People and
Exactly.
everyone need at least 3 characters since we have 3 builds.
Exactly. So I did like the math and I was like, okay, if we can get to 15,000 unique players, then if they each have 3 to 5, then our like supply ratio is actually perfect right here. But like literally like just one night I'm like laying up and I'm like, oh my God, dude, like one day we're gonna supply. And then people are gonna be like, the floor price is atrocious, and it's gonna be like, it is because there's 200,000. I mean, look at Zed Run, right?
Yeah, 200 like 2.4 million by Gen 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did do the math and
Yeah.
3 millions if we did only 60% recruit rate.
Exactly. And I'd love to click a button and like make player growth just like go up,
Yeah.
which is like an ideal situation. But our game is a little bit more complex than like like a step in or like other types of like casual like games out there. So like for example, like a super popular kind of like Diablo like game. Their like founder did like a talk on like their game progress over time, and like they like their like goal was for like the first year or two of like their development, and like now they have hundreds of thousands needed to get like to get to, so because they're like a more complex game. Like my a casual person that I know isn't going to like pick up Path of Exile and maybe necessarily fall in love with it, but they show that the total addressable market for even a niche game like that is millions of players, hundreds of thousands of daily active time to get to. And I was just like looking at the situation, and like if we have, as HelV said, like 1 million raiders and we have 10,000 players, like that could be like a death blow to the game. So I was like, gotta hit the pause button. We can get some other syncs in place for Orem. Orem can be used to enter for our player base to enter the tournament. It can be used to like potentially get cosmetics. It can be used to get tools and buildings that you need to keep progressing farther in the dungeons where you can keep earning Laz rewards. So I think that we have plenty of other like syncs. Like we already have a sync that most games didn't have, which is that you need to pay Aurum to run more dungeons, you know, which is a sync without recruitment. If nearly as big of a sync as recruitment was, it's like a 90-10, but at least it's like a 10. It's a starting point, and we can build other stuff on top. I was more worried about, or am more worried about, way too many raiders than like temporary things that we need to do to make like use cases for Aurum. So yeah, but full circle back to your point, like Raider isn't something that we have to like attach to the recruitment model to make it totally required. I just think that we need to keep it paused for a little bit, and if we do reintroduce it, we need to reintroduce recruiting at a Aurum price where it's supportive of our players and supportive of the floor instead of like a negative flywheel.
Well, that's good. That's a
I'm
great.
a big fan of pausing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are.
And it was also one of those things too where it's like you can build models where like if the market is efficient, it works, but like markets aren't always efficient, right? And if the market becomes inefficient and it breaks, like then you're in like a bad situation. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always have to also be really worried about like hype cycles and things. Like Axie kind of got caught by it where, you know, they had and they needed all of these Axies to be around in order to support that many players, and then everybody left. Or, you know, a good portion of people left, and now all of those still exist and nobody wants to use them.
Exactly. And that's if we go from 10,000 players to 250,000 players, that's still a problem we have to solve, HelV, because like our current recruitment model won't solve that. And that's a big thing with gaming cycles, is that like player bases will go up and down, but if there's assets that then become unnecessary and then like flood the market, that's another problem that really no game with this type of model like has solved. So that would be like another thing that we would have to you know, figure out like as well, that ties into it. Very good point. And yeah, Axie has shown it, but all games have shown it. It's just that we're a new type of game where the impact of that, like Halo Infinite, if there's 200,000 players or there's 50,000 players, like you can still queue up and get a match. It doesn't like break the game or like the game economy. I guess it would be interesting to look at some things too, like RuneScape and World of Warcraft, and like how their gaming cycles like affected the prices of their like items in games and stuff like that, or like look at like EVE Online. I think EVE Online has done it great because they've always had really good burns in their game. Like ships can blow up, ships can break, and it pulls all of that out. So like even if their player base goes down, like they have like really good burns. But yeah, that's another problem that like we're gonna have to figure out, is like if Crypto Raiders goes from 10,000 players to 250,000 players, back down to 100,000 players, up to 500,000, down to 200,000, like how do you make an economy that doesn't like blow up in a big way and then contract in a bad way without like breaking things permanently or
You've started out with permadeath in the game, so
I know gotta get that fucking shit in there, right?
It's supposed to be family friendly, Nick. Gosh.
Sorry, earmuffs, kids. My bad. I have a 2.5-year-old at home, and I'm always like flipping on that. You know,
no, but I think that's a good point. Permadeath, man. Like, and I think that's what a lot of us were drawn to. But it just has to be installed correctly and at the right time. You could do it right away, right now, but it's not gonna work.
Yeah, and all on like the roadmap in orders of important, because it's like very important. And part of the thing is like if we'd probably be further along in feature sets of the game. Like we probably could have permadeath, and we probably would already have live PvP and potentially disenchanting and like crafting. But like we made this like strategic choice that like if we're trying to build a game that's going to be the next RuneScape or the next World of Warcraft, like how does Phaser scale on like a 2 or 3 year horizon? So we're like having to make some like short-term sacrifices for the good of the game, you know, like on a longer horizon. But I think like once we get it out, if we can get a senior dev on our team and then get our core dev team more familiar with like building in Unity, then we can have this like perfect world where we have Unity, it's working great, the features start coming back, we all got used to.
Yeah. No,
I
absolutely.
guess we will get Bermadis once we spam win enough.
Yes, exactly. There's actually a when calculator. You haven't hit it yet. Drop.
Hashtag when in chat, please. Hashtag when in chat.
Yeah.
I
Congratulations.
started the train.
All right. Kennabear and Dan, what you guys got?
I really just wanted to know when there's going to be more permadeath like events, like more tournaments with permadeath would be so much fun. Like I feel like there's so much more that would go into it if you're sending a raider in that like you've had for a little bit to a permadeath event. Like if that raider loses, like you're going to be hurt, and like some of us, just, I don't know, it'd be fun. Or you send in a new or just more permadeath events would be so much fun, and I feel like a good bit of people would join them because like it's not going to be, if you're sending your elite raider in, imagine you lose to someone with rare gear, like you're going to be so sad, but like you deserved it like at the end of the day, and it would be you kind of laugh it off, but like I don't know, just type of event because they're all almost the same in the current.
Do not expect to see Richard in any permadeath events.
Yeah, exactly. But like, we could also make it like sort of, or maybe it's like a battle royale mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you all kind of come in on the level playing field, gear throughout like the progression, but then like you die, but like you make it like an equalizer, like we did with the permadeath event. I also was thinking like, could we potentially tack on permadeath to the big tournament that? Because since there's like 2,500 players, that would be like a big fun like permadeath event. But like have to like tie that into like the everything like that. But that would be a cool opportunity. But yeah, and that also does, I think HelV is what you're alluding to. Like that does actually allow you to solve some of the hype cycles of a game, or like if it's going down, there is like a way to like kind of naturally like turn the supply back out.
Yeah.
It's good.
From like a mod facilitator standpoint, like everybody loved the permadeath tourney.
Yeah. It was so much fun.
So it was just, it was a blast, and it was like I feel like the most fair out of any of them. So that's why like people like, and everyone was good sports. And then we all shared what our passwords were after, and it was hilarious and a good laugh.
That's awesome. I didn't know y'all did that. I also love the GIF with like the raider walking and then getting hit with like the tombstone. The first person that died in the tournament. And it would be a lot more fun too if it was like live PvP too. And that's also why with this tournament coming up, where we wanted like everyone to have like the same like loot table. In the game, where we can have, for lack of a better word, like power creep progression in a lot of aspects of the game, but then also have aspects of the game where like everyone comes in with a character on like a level playing field where it's more accessible for like all types of players, and then they can, you know, level up for a week, go in a tournament, or battle royale style. You all start like naked and you're running around getting gear, like
little slappies.
Someone also asked if we can put like they were like, maybe it's weird for new players if they see all of like the naked characters, and we can just put some like default gear on them.
Oh, like, put some like caveman stuff on them, like a loincloth, like.
Or there was that YouTube video that was calling us a scam because all the characters were naked.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember
that. I had a friend send me that video.
Highest listed. He started by highest listed. He's like, why are some of these like? It's like has to be a scam, and it's like, well, people can actually listen.
Well, you actually find your items through physically playing the game, but.
Exactly. I always list a character at 6969 ETH. You know, every time.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
It's weird that once you throw crypto in front of a video game, people forget how video games work. Like I don't understand it.
Oh yeah, it makes no sense. This is a game? That doesn't exist.
This is a video game.
Wait, what?
All right, we got one question left for each of you. HelV, we're gonna go with you first. What you got?
All right, so this is a little bit less of a fun question. So it's about how you the original tokenomics. You know, way back, obviously nothing in that really applies too much anymore. But the original tokenomics white paper talked about like lockup periods for the team and everything like that. And I know like you talked about the core team had it extended out even to like 30 months. But I wanted to ask about like what constitutes like a core team member, and what are more people that are not influenced by that lockup, and what kind of goes into that from the team's perspective. Because I know there have been some people that partially get paid in Raider token, and just obviously it's their right. If you get paid partially in Raider token, you're going to sell it because you need money to buy groceries. That's their right. I have no problem with them doing that. But what are the differences there from the team's perspective? Because sometimes you'll see, you'll look at a wallet and be like, well, this one sold, how much ever of a token. It's like, well, I would have considered them a core team member, but I guess they're a contractor technically, and I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's some of it you can't talk about, but kind of what goes into that from the team's perspective.
No,
because it's kind of in the.
That's like a really like good idea, and like most of those, for the lack of a better word, like issues are from like contracts that we agreed to at the very beginning of the game, when like Raider was 50 cents and we had $200,000 in treasury, you know what I mean? And we had and those people took at the time a high risk to like get paid out in that, but also we were a little bit more amateur at the time in terms of like crafting the agreements to have lockups, and we didn't have lawyers at the time to help us like craft all of these agreements. So like what I can say is that like going forward, like there's going to be no more like you get paid in this and you just get it every month and it gets like dumped. Like everybody on the team, and the vast majority of everybody on the team is a core team member. All of those people will be on lockups. So like all of our devs will be on lockups. If artists are getting rewards, they're going to be on lockups. Like a year instead of us on the core team where it's like 3 years or 2.5 years or whatever it is. But like everybody is going to be on those kinds of lockups going forward. And now that we also have more cash in the bank, we can just pay people more cash and not pay people as much in tokens. Because I do agree that that is a problem. And like with like some people, it was like we already had these agreements in place, and then maybe we thought that they were going to be full-time team members, but then they decided that they wanted to become contractor. They wanted to, not be a full-time team member. And so then the contracts like weren't adjusted. It's a little bit of like one of those things where it's like where we were at, 8 months ago is way different than we were at today. But like going forward, we're not going to have like any of those issues. If someone's going to get paid out in Raider, they're going to be on at least a year lock before they can access any of it. And now that we have $10 million in the treasury, that's not a deal breaker when we're talking to people, because it's like, no, we can actually pay you enough in cash that you can pay your rent and you can pay for all of your living expenses. And so the Raider is essentially your upside in the project, and that's why you're here, and that's why maybe you're getting paid a little bit less than you would at a corporate job, because you have. But yeah, like long story short, like a lot of that is like legacy things that have in place. Like a person where like I don't like going back on a deal on someone, even if like economically it makes a lot of sense to.
I agree with that completely. You make a deal with somebody, it's a deal.
Yeah, you gotta. I signed like 9-month or like year contracts at like the very beginning, so I'm locked up until like 2020, end of 2023 or 2024 when it starts coming up, and then it goes all the way into the end of that year. And same with all of like the founders, so we don't have the ability or the desire to sell tokens. Trust me, to be able to trim some tokens at $10, but
tell me about it. I in solo stake at the top, and now it's down to like 80,000. So tell me about it. I'd love to be able to have sold them. I know what position. I know what it feels like.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, I just get paid and all my upside is in like making the game a success. But I'm really glad that you brought that up, because like I've wanted to discuss it, and there has been like some awkward scenarios. And scenarios that I really wish I could like go back and like, like fix or like change. Like there's all sorts of things that like I didn't even know that, like, for example, you can do contracts that aren't fixed price but are like TWAP'd, right? Which the person can gets the bonus or gets paid out based on where the token price is. So if the token price is higher, they get way less actual tokens. And like I didn't even know those kinds of agreements like actually like exist back in the day. But like once we flush out like all those like legacy contracts, which is only a couple, like any and all new deals that we've been doing with like new hires and everything like that, they're all on year plus lockups. They're all getting paid way more cash. So as many tokens, because I see the same thing that you see, HelV.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about it because I can't imagine how many DMs you get about it, because I get DMs about it every once in a while. Like, hey, did you know this person's dumping their tokens? I'm like, no, I didn't, but I don't have an answer for you. I'm not on the team. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know?
and for me, contractors, certain contractors have probably made 4 times my salary. The number, I haven't looked in the details, but yeah, if I could go so many things differently, but I was just a young little guy with a dream.
And still have a dream.
And
so fast too that it's extremely hard to keep on top of it.
I mean, when we were at like 50 cent Raider, I never imagined in a million years that we would see it at $10 in like 6 months. You know what I mean? So like a lot of this stuff has been like a learning lesson to me. Like once again, if I could, start it all from the beginning, everything would be long-term lockups. Everything would be on TWAPs. It would be weighted cash. So yeah.
That's a good question, HelV. Bilbol, anything left? What you got?
It's regarding Unity, but not the usual when Unity. It's more like now, from my understanding, Unity will open more things to do in game and more features. Do you have a plan, like kind of roadmap to what is coming next and so on, like the next 6 steps that you think will come after Unity?
Yeah. So first thing is going to be true PvP with matchmaking, and then like on the short list is like disenchanting and crafting, like some sort of like overworld experience. Like we all have this, we should be able to have like some of that like in the game where people can hang out and they can be like, dude, look at this sick new weapon that I got, and like you can talk. One of the senior game dev consultants that we like hired, he did like a lot of research on like Diablo 2 and how like a big social aspect of the game was like trading, and how like a lot of friendships and things were created because mechanism, because it like had a real reason why you would go into the overworld and like and hang out. Auction house, of course. I would love to get a fishing mini game like in there. That was like the in my ideal world, like Unity was going to be out in April, and like we were going to be able to divide and conquer like on the core dev like teams, and like have like basically people like on like the combat gameplay side, and then people on like the social kind of experience side, like the overworld and getting fishing and getting all of these different things down the pipeline. The cool thing about, so like one of the big things that slowed down Unity is the fact that I think a lot of studios, they're used to building games that are all client side. And since we're on PvP, and since we have like security needs, we have this really complex server side infrastructure that I don't know if you all remembered, like back in February, like the roadmap got kind of delayed because we were building that out. And I don't think we've had to work with the Unity team to like build up the code base to like interact with all of that. But like things like fishing, that's where I think like the Unity studio gets to like really like show their experience, right? Because they can like make a real that and they'll already have like all of the server side interaction like baked in. And of course, I personally like really want like some more like multiplayer experiences, not like PvP matchmaking, but like multiple people trying to accomplish like the same thing in a dungeon or in an event or things like that. I think that's really fun to me. But And we are working on getting like a white paper up that's like updated and has like the roadmap list of like all of the things that we're wanting to accomplish. But basically most of the things that we're wanting to accomplish out of the gate like are the things that, you know, the community has like really talked about, which is, you know, true PvP, disenchanting crafting, overworld experience, fishing, all that jazz.
I was actually praying to hear something about wings. I'm a big fan of the wings.
The what?
The wings, characters' wings.
Oh, wings.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. So on that line, like not only just like wing, but like being able to mount up and dismount in dungeons, and then there can actually be even more value for mounts because like if you mount up, you could move faster in a dungeon, and then like also in the overworld, you want to show off the sick mount. I mean, that's like
I need me a legendary dragon mount that I can fly around on.
Oh yeah.
Very Fire Emblem with the being on a mount has different advantages compared to if you dismount. And
Totally, right? And then also, that's part of the reason why we're looking at increasing the sizing of the characters because there's like a limited amount of pixel room to like do things.
So funny on the mounts right now; they would look hilarious. Just
I know, right?
They have 2 pixels for the whole character on the mount.
Well, the funniest thing is when we were looking at the resizing, like, because one of the things Ken talked about it with the original size is he's like, I only have 3 pixels for boots.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, that's probably a problem.
We were looking at like the old ones the other day, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize. I was like, the only one that hasn't changed too much is Tammy.
Yeah,
yeah.
Really mad.
Her design was just.
It was so good, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Because back in the day when we first actually made the redesign, there were some people that were like mad because Tammy like changed even like a little bit, and they're like,
but then now they are big fans.
Yeah, but I think we went them over. But the funny thing is, I don't know if you noticed with the resizing skin, I counted the pixels, and somehow even with the resize, the boot went from 3 pixels to 2 pixels.
It went less.
I know, it went 1 down. I'm like, well, this isn't helping the boot thing. So I actually wanted to see if we go up 1 more size. We don't want to go up 2 more sizes because then you get to that, you know, that level of pixel art where it like starts to look like real art. Like it doesn't become art, but it's weird. Yeah. But we tested 1 level up, but I think we can go 1 more level up, and it's still like the art style that we love, but it will take up, like, I think it will add another 24 pixels to the whole shebang that the art team can work with. And then maybe we can get boots up to like a whole 6 pixels to work with.
Let's go.
Can we have maybe multiple looks for Tammy, and the community gets to decide which one is the one that we will go for? Just for Tammy.
Just for Tammy.
Like more hair color and more like
like
styles.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. And the nice thing is that should be like really easy lift because like it's not like it's literally like just calling like a different like art file. You know what I mean? So then like we can have all sorts of like hair colors, all sorts of hairstyles, all sorts of like face styles, like you said, like a wink or something like that. And then also potentially making like some of those things like not default, but like unlockable, like, you know, through like winning a certain dungeon or like doing something in PvP.
Overworld Salon?
Yes. Someone in chat was like, my crypto clothes are like I haven't like washed them yet. Like where do I go to wash them? And then someone was like the sink, and then someone else was like, is that what the ultimate sink really is? Like you have to pay orums.
That's the true arm sink.
That's hilarious. All right, DanK, Kennabear. Last question. What you guys got?
Okay, so this is kind of more of when Unity comes overworld question. And this is more of my childhood obsession with like Gaia Online talking. Are there any plans of property and like a house for your raiders, like that you can decorate or?
Yeah, so we 100% have been like talking about that because like trying to like tie it into the overworld. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out is like the differences between like land, which would maybe be more like economically useful, and then like a home kind of thing that you're talking about. And the question is like should that live on the land, or should that almost be like apartments in the overworld? You know what I mean? Because it may be cooler to attach it to the overworld. Because if you think about like traveling and stuff like that, like
Right.
no one's gonna like go all the way to like land and like hang out in this like isolated area. It may be cooler to like try to attach it to like the cities, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe like like there's like certain there's like a limited amount of like rooms in like different like instances in the city, and like you can own like the deed to like the apartment, and you can upgrade it and everything like that. But like if you and your friends want to go start hanging out in like another city, you could like maybe sell the deed to like that apartment. You could also potentially tie in some like, I don't know, maybe like equipment things. Like it could act as like a pseudo storage bank kind of
Right.
thing.
I was gonna say I just want to hang my fancy weapons on the wall.
Right? Yeah, that'd be so
Yeah, you
cool.
can also do like ultra premium ones too, where it's like you actually own this little piece of land in the city that's always permanent, always instanced in. Anybody can come to it, and then you have the other ones that are more economy, that are just like the apartment that has 100,000 instances in it, that anybody can have, and you kind of have that really cool things that you could potentially, maybe if you win it from some huge tournament, you got this land and it's always instanced in one of these major cities, and there's just cool things you can do.
Maybe
That's
we can
a really cool idea.
Maybe we can mint some deeds to land, and like, it just breaks the Ethereum chain, that's probably a really good idea.
Yeah, I want to pay $10,000 in gas.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
It'd also be cool in like the rooms, or maybe like in a guild hall, if like you could have like the heads of like bosses that you've like defeated, like, as like a sign of like like
taxidermied up on the wall.
Exactly. Like I took down this dragon, and it'd be especially cool if it was. We need to get another limited edition or limited event dungeon back in, because those were always like fun. But it'd be cool if you had like the head of a boss from like a limited dungeon that is like never coming back, and like
Yeah.
you're one of the few people that took him down.
Yeah, that would be awesome. DanK,
Dude,
anything?
I will spend so much money on purely cosmetic items. Like I don't care. The amount of time I have wasted in just getting like rare items in games that don't do anything but look pretty, that you like put on the wild.
And that's the cool thing about the Aurum loop, where like people were kind of like, what will people like spend Aurum on? And people will actually spend a lot of Aurum on cosmetic things. And then the cool thing about our game is that like they could just play the game to get the gold to buy the cosmetics, instead of like pulling out like the USD card. But like the more research I do on like games that are purely revenue generated from cosmetics, like Fortnite to an extent, although it is tied to a battle pass, but like Path of Exile is actually like the perfect example. You can play Path of Exile the whole way through without any cosmetics, and it will like not impact any access to the game you get, anything whatsoever. It's like 100% pure play cosmetics, and they make like millions of dollars a year off of it. But it would be like even cooler in that kind of scenario if like the cosmetics you could like get from like your in-game usage. So yeah, you're the perfect I need to be hitting you up for like all the cosmetic ideas.
I play Genshin Impact religiously. I know it's a little different because the characters like some are better in senses and they do different things, so they do have different utility. But in a certain sense, you could just play the game for free, never roll on like any of the characters except for like, because you get free primo gems just for playing, and then you can spend those on rolls on characters you like wish for them. But it's this the amount of money I mean, not that much, I'm not too bad, but I've spent like
and this is
$70 on a game that I didn't need to, just to roll a character because I like the way they look.
Did you end up
half
getting
these characters I don't even level, they just sit in my character list, like I don't even
cool.
Yeah.
Did you at least get the characters?
Huh?
Did you get the
yeah, every
character?
time I spent money, I've got the character on the banner that I was
No,
trying to
I missed out in show, and then I stopped playing the game.
You're like, no.
No, not for me anymore.
I've got like C5 Toma for free. I don't know if you know who that is. He's like a newer fire character. But yeah, dude.
No,
all of my friends I've like in a little Twitter group chat, all my friends can't get him, and I've got him like C5 just from like not trying to get him, rolling on the banners trying to get a different character, and he's just like, hi, I'm home again.
I need to look at this mechanic. It seems really cool.
Genshin's fun.
All right, we got some.
It's just a standard gotcha.
It's just
Yeah,
standard
it's
gotcha.
just your gotcha game. Your typical Gotcha game.
All right, Nick, we got some community questions. A couple easy, a couple hard ones, and then we'll end this session. All right.
Also, and one quick thing on the cosmetics is you could make cosmetic gear that's not like affects stats, but it's just like awesome to rock around in the overworld.
Yeah, transmogs win.
Transmog, yeah.
Transmogs.
Just make like a light bringer, make it into a dark bringer or something.
Yeah.
Just like I don't know, just changing like the glow on something.
Even
Changing.
if it's just like 3 different looks for each item, like it doesn't have to be like unlimited. Like even if it's just like, oh, it can be this, this, or this. Like having that option of like.
I'd spend so much money on just being able to change the color of some of my gear.
Yeah, you can also like add just cosmetics to the weapons where the skin of the weapon, no matter what it is, looks in a certain way for a raider.
Yeah, like imagine being able to have like a spectral kind of skin on just like any of your weapons.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or just like you like the spectral splint like kind of look to it, but you don't really like the skin to it. Maybe you throw a different skin that you really like.
Shiny
on it.
like the Lightbringer, like.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love it too.
I don't know. I love that Sunforged half plate look, but like it's not going to be the best armor anymore.
Yeah.
So.
That's true, especially as we get more gear. You know, it makes sense to be like transmog. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, WoW does that, so I mean, yeah, it makes sense. All right, Nick. So a couple questions for you. Are mini games planned like before we get to Overworld? Like a mini game that you may do when your quests are all done. I'm not sure. I don't have any ideas in terms of mini games, but is that something that you guys have been thinking about at all, throwing into the mix?
Yeah, well, I mean, do you guys want fishing before like Overworld? I mean, like.
Everyone's like, yes.
The kind of cool thing is you can make the fishing experience where like multiple people can like go to the same part of the river, so you can almost make like fishing like a pseudo social experience at the same time, making it a mini game, but like also like you walk up to like the river and there's like 4 other people chilling there, and you're like. You know, you can like talk to them. So maybe we do that first. I think
the way like Gaia had fishing per se, and it was like you would log in and then they would pair you with like however many people that would fit the room. Like there was like different servers, and then you would like,
instance it out, right? Like so.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like everybody had the same little like fishing pond, but like you could get different. Yeah.
Almost like AIM chat groups, you know, like from way back in the day, you know.
AIM chat groups.
Yep.
Oh man.
Pausing Unity doesn't seem like a problem if we get fishing faster.
Okay, cool. I can make that. I'll shake on that. Okay, cool. So fishing before city overworld is what we'll
All right.
The mining mechanic, that's my favorite thing about Harvest Moon.
But then in terms of other mini games, like one thing that Devin, one of the game designers that came on, he's done a lot of hackathons in his day where like you join like a hackathon and you're like a dev and an artist and you do some like cool things. We talked about this previously on the roadmap. Another L on my list of things I put on the roadmap that got pushed back, but it would be really cool for us to do like a hackathon event where we try to attract like developers and artists from inside our community and outside our community, but have like a prize pool and they can make like fun like mini games and just like different experiences that we can do with our raiders on top of like the normal game mode. Still have to like figure it all out, but like in my free time, one like game idea I've been playing around with, I don't know if any of y'all have played Clash Royale, but like Clash Royale, basically there's like 2 lanes and there's like towers and you send like people to fight him down the lane. Making that, but instead of towers, it's a raid.
Tammy's.
Yeah, Tammy's on both sides. There you go. And you can send some of the cards, like you can put weapons and equipment on the raider, so it's almost like a fighting tower mini game. I was playing around with that idea, but that's something we could potentially do. But like, if we're talking about like actual in-game like mini games, it sounds like Fishing Overworld is what we got to do next. So
the community has spoken.
Yeah, I think that's really cool solution actually, because we get the social experiences that I feel is important to the game and the community, but then also getting the mini game that everyone has been wanting since the beginning.
All right, next question for you, my friend. The demand is kind of lackluster. Is there any kind of goal or plan for a marketing push, maybe a delisting campaign or a sweeping campaign or anything? Has that been kind of talked around at all?
Yeah. So I'm not sure what a delisting campaign is. A sweeping, where like the treasury like sweeps the floor. I'm not the biggest fan of that personally, because we're basically just like we're taking away gunpowder that we can use to make the game better long term, just to try to fix like a short term solution. But in terms of getting more demand for the game, I definitely think that we can utilize the tournament as a big way to do that, and we have our PR team queued up, ready to go to get press around that. It's just that we have to get. I don't want to tell the PR team to go and like have all these dates on it, and then we can't hit the dates because of the like fully fleshed out. But I think that's going to be a big potential marketing event. I've also talked in the chat about doing opening up so that people can join the game and buy a raider just with credit cards, and buy some dungeon keys just with the credit cards, that we can get a lot of people. Because what's interesting is there's a high percentage of people in our community that this crypto experience, and you got to think about the amount of friction that they had to go to just get to the game. And if we remove that barrier, if we can bring in more players that like this style of game, participate, and they're not scared of crypto, not scared of NFTs, it's just like, it is a earmuffs, bad word, very painful to like learn MetaMask and all this stuff for like your first time. And then also I want to just like step up my own like marketing initiatives and like ability. So like working with Twitch streamers to try to get like Twitch streamers that average like 200 to 1,000 viewers, like paying them to stream the game, but like giving them like leveled up accounts where they can like, you know, be actually like interacting with Laz and showing off these cool experiences. Working with potential influencers on TikTok. If you actually comp our game size versus other crypto games out there, a lot of crypto games stall between 5,000 and 10,000 players. There's only a few amount of games, at least unless any of y'all can correct me, that really break beyond that, like Z1 being one, Axie Infinity being one. There's a very select few amount of games that have broken beyond just like the niche crypto gamer market. And based on so many good, or not, so many like crypto duck in this like 5 to 10K range leads me to believe that the size of like the hardcore crypto gaming community is probably like 30,000 or 40,000 people. And so for us to get real beyond that, now part of the problem is that we have to get the game to the place where we can cost effectively acquire these new customers. Because if we try to ramp up, like I've run ads my whole life, like we could crank up like paid ads that we wanted to like 30K, 40K a month. But if we're paying for a lot of customers and the customer acquisition cost is high and the stick is high because the game isn't at like the level of a fully polished game, we could just be burning money. But I think that there are non-traditional advertising solutions where Crypto Logic said that only 4.4K, and HelV already answered it. Thank you, HelV. I think there's other ways for us to like bridge the gap between before we have a like complete game where we can get ourselves to 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 players as we're building towards the point where we can go out and get lots of gamers and get like 100,000 players. But part of the reason why like I haven't been pushing on that so much is that we just have been having a lot of internal like reworking, a lot of time and intention going to trying to like get Unity, like get the team integrated properly and working properly. Also working on like scaling up the team. But like I need to really start to put the growth hacking stuff, because that is one of the things that I'm like I at least I think really good at and I've done in my career. So I want to start to get those things going. Because I do agree that but if you, one of the things that if you notice is that I'm pulling up Peter's charts, because yeah, this isn't like crazy numbers, but just with no marketing and just natural organic growth, we get 10 to 15 new wallets coming in every day. That's not crazy numbers, but that is like 10% player growth where we're at, like every month with no marketing, with no push, which leads me to believe that our game is in a state where people are interested in it and in having some level of growth periods that we had. Actually, interesting enough, they were like tied. They weren't tied to like marketing events. They were tied to like news events or like catalysts, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, like, we got a lot of player growth because of the investment news. Like if you look at that period of time, like you can see it on all the stats. Like Aurum bridged into game, like skyrocketed for that like couple week period. The amount of new characters bought like skyrocketed for that couple week of period, right? Where like news events and like those kinds of catalysts can get you the players maybe more, or probably definitely more cost effectively than just like a traditional customer acquisition model like mobile gaming does. So I think there's a lot of solutions, but it's going to be like, that's why I think that the big PvP tournament, it can be a really big catalyst, because like I put myself in like the shoes of like a gamer, like, people competing for like that level of like a prize pool, and I'm watching it on Twitch and it's super hyped up because Lang1y's going ham. I think that's like a potential where we could potentially double our player base if we do the PR campaign properly, if we do the associated like marketing properly. I think those kinds of strategies are what's going to get us like a lot of player growth until we get to the game, to the state where we can get that like really natural like curve up. I am pretty bullish on doing trying the Twitch streaming thing, because we are positionally in an interesting spot, especially if we can get the credit card processing going. It's just running through legal right now. Is that if like people are watching Twitch streamers play the game and have fun, and then they can just go check it out and they can just like buy with a credit card and hop in, and we target the right Twitch streamers that already, they don't play Call of games that are kind of like this. I think that is, and that's an easy thing to implement in place. Zero on our team is like super tapped into like a lot of Twitch streamers and stuff like that. What's very interesting is a lot of people in like the card gaming genre like our game, and then also a lot of people like in the RuneScape genres, right? There's like niche genres that we can target that are going to have like high customer overlap, and that's like a relatively easy thing for like marketing campaign for us to set up. So I'm very aware of it too, though. Like I look at the KPIs every single day. So it's just where we're at right now.
I got you.
I feel. Sorry, one point just regarding the tournament. Do you feel like 1 million might be too much for the current players number? Because I feel like now I'm not an expert, but I feel like we can maybe make it just half of that, and people will still be very interested in taking part and so on.
And that's something that we've like talked about, because like part of it is like how you price it in Aurum, and then how the Aurum like flows into the prize pool, and that's like part of like how it can get up to that. But then also you have to look at then the sell back into Aurum. So yeah, we could potentially do that. We could also potentially like the treasury pays like 300, 400, 500K in like ETH, and then like other like, I still have to work through some of like the pricing modeling, but I do agree with you. Like
just an idea, maybe with luck time, so the 1 million cannot be unlocked directly, but over time.
I love you, Bilbol. I've been looking at that too. Exactly, where you can kind of tranche it, and a lot of games have actually done that as well. Yeah, I just picked 1 million because it sounds cool.
It does sound cool. Very cool and attractive.
There's a ring to it.
It's got a nice ring.
Yeah.
All right, I got 2 more questions for you, Nick. Quick ones, hopefully. Do you think you reached the floor price that you wanted for your Raiders too fast?
Yeah, definitely what we were like talking about before. Like when we talked about like, oh, we want the game to cost $20 for people to play, like that wasn't supposed to be like like 8 months from now. That was like looking ahead like 2-3 years now. We want to be like the cost of like an indie game.
Yeah.
And that's why I say like when like looking back, it was a miscalculation.
Yeah.
Of just how we modeled it,
Mhm.
and like how we modeled like the formula to like work out. If we were just at like 30,000 uh, total like raiders out there, like what does the game state look like? Now you could also say then there's also like 36,000, 38,000 less raiders that were recruited with Aura.
Mhm.
Like so many variables, but I think the thing that I'm very confident about is that we accidentally created a negative flywheel on the prices, but we didn't do it to the point of no return. And that's why like I wanted to pause recruitment and then completely like restructure it, because we're at a total supply count that we can really easily turn it around. Get 5,000 new players in, everything will look different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I think if I could like
answer.
go back, we would have done it like much slower. I think part of the issue too as well is that like where we were at when we switched to open recruitment, like GameFi was the hottest thing in crypto. Remember in December and January, like it was like crazy. You know what I mean? And we thought that it was just going to go like parabolic, and it didn't. And then we also thought that the investment deal would also maybe create another type of run like that, and we didn't expect like crypto to be in a
bear
in like
market.
the market conditions that it is now. Yeah, because you got to think like a new player, like that they're hearing like crypto's tanking, like does that impact their interest in like trying out NFT gaming? I'm not sure the answer to that, but potentially. But yeah, I can 100% say that the model that we chose, I think was in hindsight a miscalculation, and there was better ways that we could have structured it that would have we probably still could have ended up with the same amount of players with better market conditions for our game. But once again, I don't think that we let it get to a point where we really messed things up. Like if we were having this conversation and we were at 250,000 raiders and the floor price was like eight fractions of an ETH, then we would be in a really bad situation. But like when I look at it, I'm like 68,000 raiders. If most players want 3 to 5 and you have some people that want a lot more, like that's a very addressable situation that we can like plow through in the next couple of months.
Yeah, as miserable as the bear market is, it did point out these issues a bit to you, I think.
Yes.
Whereas the bull market was kind of band-aiding and covering them up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, last question. You may not be able to answer, but there's a rumor apparently that I just found out about that Nat is not staying on the team. I don't know if you can answer to that. Is he moving on or at some point?
I'm not sure.
Nat Eliason?
Nat Eliason? Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, he's still with us on the contract for I think a couple more months now, but maybe he doesn't want to keep going on the contract. He hasn't said anything to us, so
okay.
I'm not sure if that rumor is true or not. But who told you that?
I got the question from Keenan.
Secret source?
I got the question from Keenan. So I mean, ban Keenan maybe. I don't know.
No, I mean, one of the things that we've talked to him about is whether he wants to, keep working with the project after his contract ends up, which is in a couple of months. But in terms of like where we're at in the game, we have a lot of people that have already taken over a good percentage of that work. Mac Arthur's been doing some really incredible things. He's been leading the charge on the all of the on-chain economic things. So yeah, if it does happen, we're in a really good position, and that kind of ties back to HelV's earlier questions. But I don't know if like Nat's always been a contractor. So if he's working on other projects, that doesn't mean that he's like not interested in working with crypto raiders, because that's been the case for like 4 or 5 months now. So
Yeah.
if someone is
Yeah, people could easily just be speculating wildly off of him working on some other projects on the side and off of wallet activity and things.
Yeah.
And I talk to Nat all the time. I don't think that he would just tell other people that he's
Yeah,
like,
he would
Yeah.
tell you first.
and not telling us. He's but like if he wants to at the end of the contract, like if he wants to just spread his wings and do other things, like I'm completely supportive of that. He did great things for the economy in getting the game to where it is today, and we are in a great place now where we can if Nat's on the team, it's going to be a great value add, and if he's not on the team at the end of the contract, it's not going to really impact things too much here. But yeah, I think he would have that conversation with me before having that conversation with
anyone
Keenan.
else. Yeah.
And also, just to say, some of the other projects that he is or allegedly not working on, I've had conversations with him, and he's not super bullish on some of those projects. So I think some people may be making some big assumptions.
Yeah, I feel you. I just want to make sure we clear the air there. We don't like rumors.
Okay.
All right, hey, that's all I've got. Anyone have any final questions for Nick while I run the giveaway for 3,000 Aurum?
One question, if you don't mind. Now, you did mention like multiple times that rare raiders are just cosmetics and so on. But I feel like since the number went up, so the value of them got a little bit destroyed, like in comparison to what it was before. Do you think you could give them more value, not in terms of power, but in terms of like certain races are better at harvesting, some are better at alchemy.
For items, like where items could. So are you talking about item drops or adding like cosmetics to
Or
items?
farming. Like totally for farming and like
yeah, it's not giving them more power over other raiders, but it's giving them more value and like getting more rewards, for example, from harvesting, getting better potions, or
now, are you
maybe
talking about like items like that specifically drop for certain things that like only have value, or like an item that can like do both?
I think if we add only items, it will break the game. But if we add, for example, them having like a certain percentage higher than others to get more harvesting rewards, or when they are questing, they get more of a certain things, or they can only, for example, fairies can make certain potions, like something like that. That will not give them an edge over other raiders when they are fighting them, but in your team it will be valuable to have them like as at least once in your team, each species.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think things that don't, the big thing that we have to always worry about balancing is like the actual like gameplay itself.
Yeah.
So there's totally things that we can like add to items that could like impact like fishing percentages or like on-chain farming percentages. But then of course we have to factor that into balancing the like economic side as well, right? Where like you don't want people to have like, you know, too much advantage in like a certain way. But like there's two ways of doing it. Like one, you could have items that drop that are like only functionally beneficial for that specific thing, right? So you could have like a pair of gloves that drops that isn't a great item from a PvE standpoint.
Not item. I think you misunderstood. I'm talking about traces, like
so like dark elves doing something.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, like orcs are strong, so they're better at mining. So they get more materials when you send them to mine.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, we haven't thought about that too much. We avoided the racial traits from or species traits from like a combat standpoint, because like we didn't want, you know, like, and as much as I liked in World of Warcraft being like undead, because I could like break any stun or fear with my trait, it did suck against like and it's a weird balancing thing. But yeah, if you're talking about purely like racial traits that like support economic things, I think that's very interesting. Yeah. And I definitely think that that's something that we can do. Once again, it's a tight balance between, you don't want to make it so it's not where it's not unfair. Like you don't want like, you know, someone that has a human to being like, oh man, like it sucks because like I can't mine nearly as good as like an orc, but like a 5% like boost or something like that. I think that's a pretty cool idea. You could also make it so that those characters had the ability to do it, but they had to work for it instead of it being like default. You know what I mean? Like maybe like an orc has to go on like a quest, a specific quest that takes time or Orem or a mixture of both, to like unlock like the, you know, it has to go talk to like the master orc of like mining or whatever. But I like that idea a lot. I'll write that down. That's something we can talk about.
Well, plus if you do it like that, where they have to go on a quest, like humans are the base race, and you know, thematically, humans are kind of the master of all trades, you know, or the jack of all trades. So you could always do it where humans have the advantage of being able to do quests for anything. They get a bonus in anything, but it's at a, you know, half the amount that you would get on a specific race. Like orcs are specifically for mining. Humans could do mining, or they could do gathering, or they could do potions. But if you have an orc, you specifically really want to do mining because you'll get a much bigger advantage than you would on a human.
Like fairies are like better at like all herbalism, or maybe like
Yeah,
certain types of herbalism.
Yeah. I think also potions, like when one race has like the ability to make certain potions, it will give like it will also encourage people to sell and buy from each other. Like if I have a fairy and HelV has a dark elf, he can like get me some resources, I can get him some, and then we trade them. It doesn't have to be like in money. It can be also against other things, like in almost every MMORPG where you trade with people to get resources that they have and you don't.
Yes. That's actually something that we have been like exploring and looking at, because it creates like some like dynamic like economic things where you have to make it, you kind of have to make it like work one way and the other way. Like if like a certain you know, like an orc can only get this, then so that they don't just have like a pure play inherent advantage. Like they only get this, but then maybe like fairies are the only ones that can find fairy dust, right? And like fairy dust is used in like crafting or something like that. So yeah, we'd have to kind of like balance it across like all races. But I think that's cool, and that's like flavor for the game, and there's like all sorts of like interesting things that we can do there. And I like that idea because then it's not, I think the biggest concern for most people is if that stuff starts to impact combat. Because like when it starts impacting combat, then it can get like weird really quick. But if we keep it like purely on the economic side, I think that's a good idea.
Also, you can make it like not able to sell, trade for other stuff. So when people like get those resources, they can only trade them with things from other players that they can then sell for our room, which will not like affect the economy side too hard or too harsh.
Yeah.
I'm for that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that the races didn't have enough utilities, in my opinion. But I also know there's a balance there in terms of balancing value and all of that. So it's a kind of a slippery slope, but one I think we can manage. All right, I do want to clarify that the questions, the community questions, were a summarization by Keenan from the community, so they didn't come directly from Keenan. Just so you guys know, it's not Keenan like throwing these rumors out. Just want to make sure. I love you, Keenan.
Keenan sources.
Yeah, no, I was a little confused by that one, because Nat and I are pretty good friends, and we talk very regularly. So I think if Nat was talking to anybody about, and also Nat is a very professional dude. He's not the kind of person that's going to like
spread rumors.
Things I would be the first person to find out. And especially since like 3 weeks ago, I was talking to Nat about renegotiating his contract after it expires to keep working with us. I think that a lot of people like to create some rumors out of thin air.
Hashtag.
Trust me, we would not be where we are today without Nat.
Yeah.
Nat asked Keenan to ask that.
And I'm working as the CEO to want to incentivize Nat to stick around and keep doing great things. But if Nat has done all he wants to do here, that's going to be okay too.
Yeah.
But I think that's a conversation that probably Nat and I would have first. And and it's also a little weird if people are trying to pump other projects by saying something like that if he's a consultant on multiple projects. But hey, you got to do what you got to do to pump your bags, I guess.
Yeah.
Keenan is
keep
trying
that.
to dodge the ban hammer.
All right. Closing the giveaway in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's closed. Good luck to everyone who entered. Mr. Disvert. Disvert? I don't know. Maybe that's how you say it. 3.26% chance. Let's go. All right. So we're going to end this stream a little different, guys. Bryson is streaming right now, and I'm thinking we raid Bryson's stream with our 60 or 55 plus streamers. Are y'all down for that, for raiding Bryson and just dropping when or just hashtag crypto raiders or something like that? I think it'd be fun.
For sure.
Let's do it. All right. He's playing some kind of crypto game right now. So let's go blow up his stream. All right. We're gonna have some fun. Hey, for you, DanK, go ahead.
Whoever won last week, I forgot to set out the other Orem, but I'm gonna ping Tyrael and make sure that happens. I dropped the ball, but we owe you an Orem. That's on me.
I was wondering where is my aura.
Oh, it's yours.
Oh, it's just Bilbol. Oh,
No.
well,
No, it's not Bilbo's.
that's fine.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's not me.
Ban him again.
All right. Hey, for DanK, Kennabear, HelV, Bilbo, thank you all for stopping in, saying hello to us, chatting with us. Nick, as always, absolute pleasure having you here. Can't wait to the next one in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and I love all of y'all on this. Like, it's awesome how much I walk away with after every single one of these, just in terms of like ideas and new things that we can implement, and like also enthusiasm. I just think that all four of you, and Langley included, are really tapped into like gaming in general, and obviously like love our games. So just want you to know that any ideas and like feedback that you give, like I really do like value really seriously, and bring back to the team and like figure out, you know, like how we can implement some of these cool ideas. We just got to get Unity out the door. And we can start re-unlocking some cool things.
I love it.
I'm gonna make
All right.
There is a lot of hate in the community against you, especially. So you can at least be happy that, or at least know that you have also a big number of supporters here.
Yeah,
We appreciate you a lot.
thank you. I appreciate y'all too. And
Some hearts in the chat for Nick.
Some hearts in chat for Nick. I love it.
I appreciate
But
it.
hashtag bans Bilbo in chat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we'll see you all later. Thank you so much. Peace.
Peace.
Bye bye.
Hit the raid button and get that going. Probably should have hit that first.
That was awesome. That was great. So many like cool discussions too, in terms of just different things.